endpoint protection and the data security. So this is the objective screen where we'll be seeing what are the takeaways we'll be getting once the test session is over. So we will be discussing about what is data, why data classification is important, and what is the principles of data classification. And important aspect, I mean, any organization or even if it's a small scale industry or single home office, or if it's in a large scale environment, what is the importance of maintaining an asset inventory? So what is the purpose and why it is very important for maintaining complete track of the assets? And we'll be talking more about in depth of endpoints, what are endpoints and what the crucial roles they play in us, and why do we need to implement the appropriate security procedure on each and every endpoint, and how do we choose the control mechanism or the principles, the predefined controls to make it useful. We'll be also seeing about what is a SANS recommended or SANS prescribed endpoint security maturity model. So this session we'll be talking about completely on it. So what is an enterprise environment and what are the main three components which constitutes an enterprise environment? Obviously, there will be infrastructure. Infrastructure is everything from computers, networks, whatever, any kind of hardware that would be, we call it as an infrastructure. For any hardware to run work properly, we need to have applications like operating system or any application to process something. And why these two primary need, we need to processing the data. Data is anything and everything which machine generates. The data may be a simple log which was created during network connection or when you tried to log into your computer. Any activity, we have an option to enable any and every activity. And even you might be familiar with the word verbose. Verbose means logging each and every transaction. So any data which is created by a computer, which is created by a machine, is called a machine data. And also the user created data, whatever a user creates, for example picture, a word document, a resume, or official document or statement of purpose, statement of work, anything, whatever user creates, it's user data. And the machine data, whatever is generated by machines, not only the computers, not only the network devices, anything and everything which are created by machines are called machine data. So in any organization or any enterprise or any environment, these three will be always interacting: infrastructure, the application, and the data. So it is primary and this cannot be separated. So if there is no data, there is no use for the application and the infrastructure. If there is no infrastructure, we cannot perform the application and the data. So similar wise, there are three important aspects. I mean, in management unit, we also furthermore segregate it as portfolio, a program, or a project in the business context. And also for IT auditor or IT governor, the four important other sub classification we will be thinking on the policies. The policies set of rules and guidelines. Procedure is also which policy to be used where, and also guidelines. We also have a one more word: standards and procedures. Standards and procedure is normal way. Most organizations will hear the word standard operational procedure. What is the standard way to operate a particular application or a particular mission? What is the process? This will be discussed in detail. So data classification. So we seen what is data, what is a machine data, and what is a user data. What is the importance of having the data classified? Classification of data is not only for organizing the data. This is to prioritize or categorize which data is important and which data is least important. So as I said before, not all the data are every data whichever in your business or corporate or enterprise environment, it's not important. One data will not be as important as the other. So we need to segment, categorize which data has the highest importance. So also when we categorize the data, it is more easy for us to apply the certain rules or certain controls to ensure that the data is secured. So we will not be encrypting the same highly sensitive data as a regular document, even if it's in a personal case. When I download audio file or text file, which I downloaded for a temporary purpose, I would not care more about the one which can be downloaded or which can be obtained anytime from the internet. So when I have something personal, because when I took a picture of my grandmother, grandfather who are no more, those pictures would be important in the personal life scenario. Similar, same like in enterprise environment, the business sensitive documents or highly confidential document, and any company would have a top secret. I mean, highly confidential data or the data which should not be fall into the hands of the competitors, or it should not be go public beyond the particular project. So every data will be classified based on the importance of it and how important it is to the business. So prioritizing the properly managed, it's we can classify the data. So also this helps us to identify and it helps us to manage a proper risk management or incident response plan. So it's a categorizing or segregating the data is much more important. So what is data classification? It's just identifying the data and the assets, data from the assets and data of the asset, and also creating a protection profile. So every segmented, every segregated, every separate chunk of data needs to be have a security or control profile, which will ensure that the we'll be configuring who or the people needs access for the particular file, and not everyone can access every file from a file system. Also the deployment of such profiles for enforcement across the environment. So these, it is not only important for creating a control or applying a control or keeping the control as it is. So there should be always a periodical revision. So also the reclassification of the employee and improvement. As a final step, not only the revision of procedures and the policies and also the access controls, we should be review the same data classification types and also to improve the method for much more proper functionality of the business and its security. So this is an example of how the data got classified. For example, the upper section which deals with the data related to the military or government or etc., they have the classification in difference. So what they call the highest priority of data would be top secret. That should not be known to everyone, and that should be known only by one or two. Maybe that's secret, top secret. And secret may be lesser important, but the two carry important document, not as much equivalent to the top secret. So likewise, the confidential data, this is also important, but not as important as secret, and restricted and unclassified. So these are the way the data are getting categorized in a military environment. And the example two, it's in the general case, regular enterprise or corporate environment. What we call it as a secret, the business secret every company will have, that will not be left out. It will be handled only by the highest executive levels. And also the confidential data that is particular for project or particular domain, so which should not be given to the other project even. So that will be handled by a group of people. Internal use only, this is a document which are used only by the employees inside the organization. For example, when we go to a technical support or example a product company, we will be having the documentation, we'll be having the product guide, product administrator guide. All the information will be available and that are publicly available. But the internal information, if we find a bug, if we find a e-track, if we find any vulnerability on the product which was internally identified, and those will not be disclosed to the public, but the internal employee will be knowing it, but internal technical support or anyone will be knowing it, but they will be indirectly giving us the solution just to mitigate how to fix the vulnerability. So those kind of updates which will be available only for the internal employees are called internal use only, example for example to be. So personal use information are similar to, just less important to public. Public documents are publicly available, the white papers, the product descriptions, demos, the advertisement materials, whatever related to the company which goes out of the company and which needs to be publicly available are classified as public. So likewise, the data is getting classified. What we'll do is we'll be having the highly confidential data, the top secret data will be on that too, maybe in a particular drive or maybe in a particular computer. The access level to those computers will be highly strict, and those cannot be viewed. Sometimes even those data can be only viewed for a particular time. I mean, the login session for the accessing the particular secret file will be the expiry time. The session time would be more shorter. Usually, we'll be having a 3600 millisecond or close, yeah, just for 5 to 10 minutes, or expiry, a short expiry like 15 seconds, 30 seconds, 1 minute of inactivity. So accessing those files might have a multi-factor authentication, not only the username and password. You might also need a token authentication, your biometrics, or your geotagging information, or accessing only from the right computer. So it's multiple factors we use along with the regular authentication to get into the data. I mean, how important the data is, the how vast the security will go beyond. Asset inventory. Why do we need asset inventory? Any asset, anything you have physically, or if it's a software, those are called assets. So when the NIST guidelines of information security, what it says, we need to identify. The initial phase is identification. We need to make sure what are the devices, what are the softwares, what are the configurations, whatever we have inside the environment, we should be aware of. This is called discover or identify. So only after discovering or identifying assets, we can protect it. We need to make sure the right set of controls are applied and right things are to be given, and we can protect. So only after protection, and we can also still be discovering, still be doing the vulnerability assessment or pen testing. The third phase will be we'll be discovering, I mean, detection of the vulnerability or threat or incident, whatever we call this. So once we detect, what we'll be doing is we'll be doing obviously a remediation. So for any action, for any life cycle or following any basic guidelines or any framework, the initial thing we need to identify what we have. So once we are set with things and we are more clear on what we have, it is easy for us to identify and categorize the same. Apply the security controls to all the detected, discovered devices and infrastructure. So it is also helps us to identify any untrusted or any non-enterprise, non-corporate devices in the environment easily. Every device, network device will have a MAC ID. Every endpoint computer will have a particular naming convention. Computer1.domain1.com, computer2.domain1.com. I mean, fully qualified domain name like this. So when the computer name convention is not matching, we can identify. When the MAC address of a network device is not matching, we can identify. Even endpoint computers will have a NIC, the network interface card. Every card will have a MAC address. So we can identify which device is trusted and which device is a rogue device, which are getting connected to the environment. And also with the well managed or well organized asset inventory will help us in greater in the business continuity plan or in a disaster recovery phase. And also it helps us from protecting us from the external hackers and as well as the internal hackers. So there are some control lists which are available from CIS for the critical security controls. So we have multiple tools like Remedy, ServiceNow, Ivanti. There are multiple tools available, and we should be familiar with the word called CMDB, Configuration Management Database. The configuration management database is nothing but it's like even it can be a simple Excel sheet, or it's in freeware, or if it's a paid as application. What it will have is it will have each and every changes happening in the configuration level of any, even from the operating system level to the hardware level. So that will be maintained. So in this, what it describes is utilization of an active discovery method or active discovery tool which are connected to the network, and these discoveries and the identification of the devices has to be updated frequently. So the computers which are in my computers and the network devices which are in my network today will not be same for the tomorrow, and it will not be same as before 3 months, and in future it will be changing. It is a repetitive process, same like anything and everything. It's a repetitive process, we need to repeat it again and again. So maintaining a accurate and also an up-to-date list of asset inventory is important. The applications, infrastructure components, whatever hardware, software, anything and everything to be updated. So it is not only restricted for software or hardware, anything and everything which you value as an asset that needs to be reported and updated. So what is an endpoint security? Endpoint is anything, any device which is connected to the end user. It can be a laptop, it can be a desktop, or if it's a end device, sometimes your routers, your switches, those are also called as an endpoint because which it connects to the end user. Why I mean it as end user? I mean when the switch can be connected to a computer, a switch can be connected with the keyboard, and we can take it as a routers can be taken as a console mode. We can work on it. So any device or every device which can be interacted by a user is called an endpoint. So in this diagram, you can see the list of devices, what are available, what are all available as endpoints. We can see the game console, a keyboard, even lamp, which is connected to a Wi-Fi. So what a lamp which is connected to the internet is called? What a speaker system which is connected to an internet is called? Those are called Internet of Things, IoTs. There are multiple. Your personal area access network, the personal area network comes under, your fitness band, your Bluetooth speakers. These are connected to the internet through your smartphone, your personal area network, your camera, which got a built-in Wi-Fi, which can transfer the data from camera to the computer wirelessly. Most of the cameras come these days will have a built-in GPS, a built-in Wi-Fi. The GPS is just to ensure that you're tracking of the geolocation where you took the photograph. So anything and everything which is used by an end computer and which can be interacted by a end user is called a endpoint. Why it is important to protect your endpoints? Endpoint security is not only to prevent threats, prevent unauthorized access, unintended access, and providing access only to the trusted employees, trusted personals. So nowadays we see most of the people will have a bring your own device concept. Like you can use your personal laptop for office work. You can use your smartphones for accessing the office emails. So in those scenarios, securing the endpoint, stopping the data leakage, it's a complicated task. The data can be leaked anytime because when particular information is sent to the internet employees over email, obviously a person who's accessing a smartphone can definitely view the email. Particularly it may be internal information on the financial record of the company, or how the stock price is and what are the future goals, and even if there is any acquisition of new companies and how the financial growth expected. So that is a financial data so sensitive to the internal employees, just to make sure that they are purchasing the shares or contributing to the company. When the mobile phone is stolen, or mobile phone is given to someone else, or it can be accessed by, or what happens if accidentally the employee forwards the email to someone else instead of forwarding to a different email address? There is obviously chances of getting the data leaked. So usage of bring your own device also gives some more additional headaches to the security professionals and ensuring that the data stays inside the premise and not goes outside. Endpoints that need system hardening and that needs additional softwares, antivirus, and spywares, just to make sure that the system is secure. So these are the endpoint security solutions. What are the endpoint security solutions available? That's listed here. The first one, data loss prevention. Getting the data just inside the enterprise or just inside the official grounds is very much important. So for multiple technology, we have DLPs. So Symantec also provides data loss prevention. McAfee provides URL proxy. So any company, because in recent days, most of the companies will obviously have a proxy server. So just to ensure that the user data is not exposed to the public environment. Encryption. So encryption, we studied about the cryptography and how the data is getting encrypted. Disk level encryption will be encrypting the drive, the complete drive or file. This is on the disk level. So email encryption, how the email is encrypted. Email also uses the standard SMTP email protocol. It sends, goes through the internet and it reaches someone else. And how do we validate it? Just by the PGP signature. The content of the email will be encrypted and that would be shared. So when the recipient receives the email, he needs the key, which is a PGP key or any type of encryption key, just to decrypt the content and to read the message. And some more additional advanced tools like process monitoring, sandboxing, alerting, and response. Process monitoring is just monitor what are the processes or what are the applications running in your computer. It keeps a track of the amount of resource every process utilizes, the usage of RAM, usage of CPU, and how long it is active in the computer. What is the network consumption of the particular process? So everything will be monitored by the process monitoring tool, and the same can be reported and alerted using a reporting tool separately. Sandboxing, which I want to take it under the anti-malware and antivirus solution. Anti-malware, antivirus solution, these are applications which works on the statistical data or any known viruses or any known infection which will be happened these now. They will have a set of signatures. or set of patterns or set of instructions to how to deal with the particular infection. Any antivirus software these days which will work on the traditional signature based protection will not work at this point of time. So nowadays most of the antivirus companies become, I mean, they want to make the software more intelligent. So I almost see that enterprise companies are bringing up with the advanced machine learning, artificial intelligence, actively scanning with heuristics technology. Heuristics nothing but it is just a process monitor, sits in the background, sits in the computer memory, which sees whatever actions done by the particular program or any kind of program. So if any suspicious activity detected, the process monitor, I mean, the heuristic control will obviously block, or if it needs to be analyzed, it will be sent to the remote server, the server of this application. Sandboxing is simple. Sandboxing is running a particular application inside a container just to make sure it is not interacting with the regular operating system. And all the interactions, all the infections, if it's a malware we need to test, we cannot run it directly on a computer. We need some secure environment. So that is called sandboxing. So recently the endpoint protection 14, which comes with the advanced memory level sandboxing. So most of the antivirus now comes with it. Also, the next topic is configuration controls. How often we do the patching and what are the services, what are the hardening method you have on the application level, on the operating system level. Network access control is the very first level of defense, what I call defense or security that cannot be provided on a single layer. It should be always a layered approach, a tier after tier. So the network access control NAC, which can be done even from the switch level. You all know that switch is not an intelligent device. It cannot make decisions. But one thing what we can do is we can configure it just to allow the known MAC addresses inside the network. And we can block any other invalid or unknown MAC addresses. Simple is a regular ordinary device which just have a multiple broadcasting and multiple reception feature. But when a Mac is programmed, a particular port is programmed, that will allow only set of or list or only a configured number of MAC addresses inside. Any rogue device cannot be connected. So when there is an open port, when there is an open Ethernet cable, when you go and connect your personal laptop, obviously the switch level it will not let you in. And even if it crosses, if there is no control in the switch level, obviously the access control list will be on the routers or firewalls, which will obviously again check for your valid MAC address or your valid FQDN name or your standard naming convention. It checks. So when it not matching it, obviously you will not be able to get into the network. To be simple, the data classification and information risk management. The data classification, as we already seen, and also the information risk management. Information risk management, it's also like which gives you understanding or which provides you the guidelines or how to classify the data and how to manage the information based risk. Privilege and user access control. Privilege user control, we have the standard control, the concept of using the least privilege. The concept of least privilege is providing only the least access and the least rights to perform a particular task. A data operator just needs access to the WordPad, Notepad. He does not need access to any other things. He does not need access to the system clock or control panel. He does not need the task. So block everything. He just give access to the MS Word. That's enough. The data entry operator can without any lag. And even in this case, if the computer is intended for a particular task, we will be installing only the minimum softwares and we will not be installing the complete list of softwares. When Word is enough, will not be installation of Access, Excel, other stuffs is unnecessary. Usually when you go into the services, we also see that a lot of services will be running, a lot of unnecessary services will be triggered. We can identify. So this is also one method of system hardening, blocking or disabling unnecessary services and unwanted services. So when we are not playing games, obviously installing or having the Xbox devices or Xbox monitoring in your local computer is obviously unnecessary because it's intended for gaming. It's not required for me. So when you go through it, it's completely every service which will be running on the background. It's not important. So you can check which are the things important to you. So when I see in MS config, I'm not able to access it. So even the task manager, you can see more. So what are the startup items available? Blue Code, Cisco AnyConnect, Citrix, Google Updater, GoToMeeting. What else? Multiple startup items are started here. So I just need to disable the unnecessary startup items to make sure that it should not be working when it's not intended to be. So it's a simple example of enterprise data flow scenario. This is the virtual private cloud. So what happening is there is an on-premise environment, there is a cloud environment, which are integrated. These are the areas where the data can be accessed. Trusted devices in the network, bring my own device, BYOD is more common. Make sure the bring your own device concept more secure. We have the mobile device management suites, MDM. We call it as short. These MDM devices will be installed on the computers or the smartphones. Those will have the device administration access. So obviously with the MDM solution, we can control the data. I mean, what are the applications or what are the other applications which will access the data? For example, if MS Outlook is installed on an Android phone, if the MDM mobile line exam, for example, mobile line is a MDM suite, we can control the access of the Outlook data. So when you download the emails, all the emails will be downloaded and stored on the local system file, I mean smartphone. That obviously will be encrypted. But getting the data, getting the copied, getting it accessed by a different application, that can be also done. So by installing the MDM, these will block the access of particular sensitive documents which are related to the corporate environment. And if you are using a Word document, obviously MS Word on a smartphone, MS Excel on a smartphone, we have the option to prevent saving the document on the local drive. It will just have the diversion. It will only let you to store the documents on a OneDrive, which is connected to your O365 account, for example. What happens when the file is accessed by a BringVOD device or a trusted device? Obviously, an outsider. I mean, if it's not managed, obviously an outsider will have the access for the particular sensitive data. So also the unsanctioned data like Dropbox, Google Drive, and go on. Everything will be connected to the local infrastructure and gets access to it, and that was available. These are a simple scenario of how the data is accessed from the internet and as well as the internet environment. So when accessing, what are the areas the data flow? I mean, what are the areas the data gets leaked? Obviously, the data will be leaked when you have unauthorized access or unprivileged or uncontrolled access for the USB drives or uncontrolled access to over the cloud. There are the various data leakage points. So every individual points needs to be taken care. Shadow IT. This term is would be more common when you deal with cloud environment or hybrid cloud environment. This slide gives you how the data is getting lost, how the data is getting leaked on a removable device. So the characteristic just gives you what are the ways it goes: unauthorized Bluetooth channels, Bluetooth network, or network shared devices. Uncontrolled access to those channels will obviously lead to the data loss or data theft. The confidential data might go beyond the control of the company. What are the symptoms? Your personal identified information and your confidential data are getting theft, and any intellectual property belongs to your company will no longer be yours when if it's in the hands of other people. Trade secrets obviously will not be the secret anymore when it goes to public. What is the impact of it? Obviously, when the impact, when data, sensitive data goes out of the company and it's not with you, it means obviously your reputation, your company name will come down. What happened recently when the personal information was shared by Facebook to some other third party data analytic company? And what happens when the in couple of years back when the Sony network was compromised and all the even unreleased movies came out and it's freely available on torrent? So even the other recent hack, we still don't believe and getting up the reputation building up. I mean, for any company which are hit by a malware attack, ransomware attack, or any kind of IT incident, or facing any kind of threat, building up the reputation back, because based on a survey, it takes around 8 to 24 months just to build back. I mean, come back to the same reputation level. It takes at least 8 to 24 months for any company to get back to the same reputation when it happened just before the breach. So it not only causes severe damage to the internal data or is, revenue wise, the reputational wise, the company is getting breached. So nowadays, any company and every company is more likely to invest much on security. So the budgeting for the security is now more abundant. So that's why the security jobs are more abundant. This is not the right time because already it's late. But anytime starting in as a cybersecurity specialist or being a data protection specialist or cloud-based security specialist, there are, to be frank, when I interview or when I check for employees, I'm not able to find out the candidates who can fit into the job. A person can be easily answering about what is an IT, what is an AD, how do you configure it. Usually, the practice what we have is we get the people and we train them later on with the security. But it will not happen with the same kind of task. So, getting yourself up, and once you complete this foundation course on cybersecurity, just make sure that you're continuing your graduation on any of the cybersecurity levels. Once you complete this session, it will be equivalent to Security Plus, CompTIA Security Plus, or CESA, I mean, Ethical Hacking University Certified Cybersecurity Analyst. So this will be equivalent to that. Obviously, we can go beyond. I mean, as a cybersecurity analyst, or you can train studying on any risk assessment, particularly CISM, CISA. So just to enhance your knowledge and get yourself trained perfect in one domain of the cybersecurity, that will obviously yield you a good job and good earning capability. So what is the solution for blocking the data leakage over removability media? Just block the access for writing data over USB drives, or monitor the data, or provide only a particular segment of or freely available data. You just don't need to provide restriction access to the public data, because anyhow, even if the data copied to a pen drive or USB drive, if it's a public data, usually it can be obtained from internet. There is no loss in getting the data copied over USB. So segmenting the data, categorizing the data, and applying the appropriate security control to the data is the thumb of the rule. So that's important. When you manage the data, classify it, and control it, obviously you're done. So the DLP solutions, obviously the DLP solutions are multiple providers available. What data leak privilege or data loss privilege the application will do is actually it monitors the traffic or monitor any data transfer from a computer to computer or computer over to internet. We can classify the data and we can configure rules, the set of rules. So sometimes the documents also can be signatured. How to do that? Even a Word document, even an Excel document, or any kind of document can be classified as a confidential, top secret, or so when we DRM, data risk management module, so this also gives you a guideline. When you properly tag or properly label a document, or we can configure the rules. If there is a, let me go with an example of Coca-Cola. Okay, Coca-Cola uses brown. We have the keyword as brown. We always use Coke plus brown, Coca-Cola plus brown, anything. So these kind of words, when it transfers or it transfers with local computers or over the internet, those keywords will be masked by this DLP software and block it or alert it. So likewise, we can create rules, create tags. So we also have a data-centric encryption. DCE, that's a new technology with semantic cloud, CASB, I mean cloud sock. So we can encrypt the data on the fly. I mean, what I meant on the fly is data on the transit. Whenever a data is moving beyond our control, whenever data is almost left the origination, the data is encrypted because until it's in the cloud CASB environment. So what is a malware? So a malware is a piece of program. It's also a regular program written in C, Visual Basic, or COBOL, Python. Any language it can be written, and only the intention differs. The software you purchase from a trusted company, those are programmed in the similar manner. And the malware comes in, those are programmed in the similar manner. Only the intention and the purpose of the software differs. When a software does what we need, it's a trusted program. If we need the GoToMeeting to connect to me and yourselves to this conference, it's working fine. This is the intention, what I need this program to be. And what happens when I connect this, when we are in the conference, it grasps the data from a computer without any user interaction, without anything. When it collects the data from you and send it to the GoToMeeting server, or if someone in the classroom become a hacker, if screens are getting shared to him personally without any intervention or in action from our end, that means the software is behaving maliciously. It is not working as per our intention. So those applications are called as malwares. That's a simple example. So when the application works for us or works as per our intention or as per our expectation, that's a trusted one. When its behavior or if its working is exactly opposite, then it's a malware. So different types of ransomwares. The virus people are usually known. I mean, it's a generic term which we hear from long back. What is a virus? A piece of software, a piece of code, or piece of payload which comes into the computer. I mean, actually, which can be downloaded on the go, over the fly, or over a USB drive or anything, which will actually tamper the original file. The integrity of the file will get damaged, and this malicious function or malicious program will also be getting injected to a trusted program. For example, when program gets into a Windows media player, obviously Windows media player will do its function, but in the background the particular piece of software's functionality also will be happening in the background. If this happens, you don't have the antivirus software installed, and when you start Windows media player or Internet Explorer, what happens sometimes when see a pop-up, your Internet Explorer needs administrator access. This obviously would be fishy, and most people will not care. We trust that this is an Internet Explorer, this is just a Windows media player. We will elevate the privilege. By default, these applications will be running with the standard privilege, and once we click on yes, run it as an administrator, we will be elevating the privilege so the media player or the Internet Explorer can run. The real intention is to just to make sure that the component or the infected piece of software inside the media player or Internet Explorer which needs administrative level access. Once you provide the administrative level access, what happens is you are giving control to someone or something else. It can block your access to the registry, it can block your access to the control panel, it can make yourself a standard user. Okay, what happens when it creates an administrator user and make yourself a regular user? It is no way possible for you to bypass or recover the password of the administrator, or you cannot get yourself back as an administrator without the rights and proof. So these are the simple examples of how a virus infection will help is. Trojan. Trojans are usually the spywares, I mean the freewares which comes in. It just looks like a regular trusted application, but in the background it does its malicious activities. Simply as a way you can execute the program, it will run functionality. You will not notice that it's actually a malicious object which is running background. So it just clones. You might be heard about the Helen of Troy. Troy is just a Trojan horse where it was gifted by the Greeks to the someone. Inside the wooden horse, there were an army hidden inside. So same like this is like a Trojan horse. The malicious payload hides inside. When the application is executed, it runs in the background and performs the abnormal activities. Rootkits. Rootkits are actually that's also a virus which are installed on the kernel level. So most of the applications running on the application level, and these rootkits can somehow bypass the security, and it can be installed along with the system driver. It can be running in the kernel level. So the rootkit viruses will cause damage to your MBR record. It will bypass the driver signature signatory requirement. So this is also one kind of infection. The worms are same like a virus, but it can spread across your environment. It can infect any and every computer which is connected to the internet. I mean, into the local network. It can crawl or move across the network. Spywares are simple. These are also simple softwares which runs in the name of a different application, or sometimes it runs in the background where it steals your sensitive information like credit card information, your username and passwords. Whatever. Typically, a spyware is nothing but it's spying software which spies your computer. We'll see a demo on how the spyware works. We download a spy software to spy onto a different computer. Crime was we actually this have a complete intention just to do the malicious activity. The crime was are usually will not be identified, and these will be most hidden. Sometimes these kind of infection can be called as a advanced persistent threats. So the detection of antivirus, because they will still be in the computer and they will not act much often. They will not do much sensitive activities on the computer. They will still reside in the computer and they will perform. And actual intention is to just, if it's for a corporate, if it's for a personal use, the intention is done not only for money, something extra. So it will be highly stealth. So the detection rate is also very less. Adwares are simple software that with the adwares we don't have much highly sensitive breach or highly sensitive compromise. It will just display the ads to a computer. When a software is installed, you will get the pop-ups of advertisements. It happens even when you visit websites. It automatically gives pop-ups to purchase something, or it gives links or redirections or eye-grasping advertisements. The motive is just to point out the advertisements and why was these advertisements are posted. That's also a business. So what is the purpose YouTube displays advertisements? Obviously for money. When we see advertisement, Google collects money from the advertiser. Simple. Same like when the content or when the advertisement is displayed when you visit a particular website, these ads are popped up or the software displays the ads. Obviously, the malware creator will get revenue from the advertiser. What is a ransomware? Obviously, this should be known. Actually, this is a current, recently trending word. Most of the organizations suffered a lot by this. So simple. So let me go with the history. Initially, what happened during 2007 or 2008? What happened? There were free antivirus. I think most of you would heard about the free antivirus. What it will do? It will just get installed. When we run it, for example, it will scan. It will scan your registry. It will scan your file system, and it will just pops up a notice stating that your computer is infected. Just pay me $1, $13, $12, just to clean up the malware. The actual intention is to actually there will not be an infection. It's a fake or false antivirus, just confuses or just canvases the customer just to pay to clean up the service. So this is how the trend evolved. So later people identified that it was a malware, that is a fake system, and they were not using much of it. So later in the by 2011-12, this same concept, which was what happened is they tried to grasp, I mean, to capture the information or capture the data or capture the information of a particular user's computer. What happens is when a malware comes in, it starts encrypting the data. It completely locks down your computer. Main functionality of this kind of ransomware are it will not infect your operating system files. How many times you crash, how many times you do restore, the ransomware till now that it was written, they will not crash your operating system files. You can as usually browse the computer, as usually you can get into the internet, you can view. The only thing, all your personal information will be encrypted and that cannot be restored, because we already read about what is encryption, how the symmetric and asymmetric encryption works. So initially when a malware comes in, the phases of malware, it may be over an email, it may be over an on the fly. When you visit a web page, a pop-up comes in, you clicks on something else, it gets into the computer. Exactly. Any malware or any kind of threat which comes into your computer will not be a single package. It will not be in a single executable exe file. It will be in a very small of fragments. 15 KB file, a 25 KB file, or 100 KB file. These will be in multiple pieces. You will not have the file extensions. You will not be seeing what exactly inside the content. You can open up in the file. These are actually the payloads even encrypted. There will not be a possibility of identifying which file is malicious and which file is going to be converted as a malware. So when it comes in after that, slowly it takes for encrypting a file, it does not need a administrative privilege. I am a standard user. I am right clicking the file and sending it to the compressed drive, makes it compressed, just like using a WinZip. Similarly, I am a standard user. I'm encrypting my file. Why does it need an administrator access? This is a main leakage of least privilege. So later it took down all the computers and it just gives a ransom note for every folder, and any folder when it comes it shows some information about your computer files are getting and got encrypted. Just to recover it, you need these ransomwares also provides a decryption tools. They need to pay some bitcoins and get the key and to decrypt. Obviously, it's 100% not guaranteed that paying the amount will recover your files. These amount which are paid to the hackers will only make them stronger, not weaker. Because 100 bitcoins or $100 per user, if it's a sensitive hospital or if it's a financial organization, what happens when the data got encrypted and it's not accessible when it's needed? Obviously, there is a huge mess, and the companies I typically heard, because from my end, I handle more customers. Even I personally interact with customers from NASA, IBM, Dell, etc. as a consultant. I'm not specifying them working with that, but when top level hospitals, the medical data got compromised. So at the scenario, even I personally known few companies paid in thousands and thousands of dollars to customers to just to retrieve. Those were, I mean, not an appreciable act, to be frank, because recovering data is not possible. We cannot trust them. So there is always a disaster recovery or BCP plan to be in place. Also, having a proper backup of your data is necessary, and incident management plan is important. Crypto miners are nowadays it's happening. The AngularJS and the React.js. AngularJS is most found in Facebook. They were the owner of AngularJS. Nowadays, most of the companies use frameworks for building up the web applications. These web applications are vulnerable, and those vulnerable libraries are used by few websites or few manually manipulated websites, which use the built-in software, I mean, built-in framework to mine the cryptocurrencies. The cryptocurrencies basically work on a blockchain technology. The blockchain technology is one chain is interlinked with other. Malware. What is a malware? We already seen that malware is a piece of software which works in a proper way as per the developer's perspective. What are the features, what are the characteristics, and what actually it does is the characteristic simply is how it comes into the computer. It may be from the internet when you try visiting a proper website. There are multiple companies who buy domains which are similar to your google.com. There is typically human tendency to go on misspelled language. Instead of Gmail, people may write Gamel, Gmail, Mgale, etc. So these are the kinds where the name of Gmail can be misspelled and mistyped in the browser. So what if I own gimeli.com, gmaili.com? So obviously when a person visits this web page, as you all know that JavaScript, it's wonderful scripting language which we can write JavaScript not only to perform certain functions on the browser, but it can also be executed on the local computer. So every Windows operating system comes with the scripting support. So you can run JavaScript, you can run VB script on your local computer even. So when a person accidentally visit these kind of websites, what I do is I'll try to run a script or try to make a script running in the background or try to drop a package. When you just visit a site, exe file gets downloaded. What happens when you try to run the exe file? Not only exe file, media file or a JPEG file, we already seen steganography method. We embed a Word document inside a photograph. How we embed a PowerPoint presentation inside a photograph is obviously easy. So when we embed some JPEG image and we store it in a My document, obviously there is a script file or a functionality file that can be called, and we can extract the embedded program and run it in the background. So likewise, it comes with the USB thumb drive. When a USB drive is encrypted, I mean when it's infected, obviously when you plug it in your computer, your possibility of getting your computer even infected. Unauthorized components, unauthorized system services, unauthorized processes which would be running in your background. The most common symptoms would be the slowness in your computer. Your computer will not be as fast as the beginning. You might see unnecessary pop-ups or unnecessary applications running. Most of the time the crypto miners will use the system resource. So obviously the system slowness and your regular activity will not be performed on the as usual. When you start running your Microsoft Word, it will not run properly. When you start opening up Internet Explorer, it will not run properly. So these are typically as symptoms on how your computer would be. And what is the impact? The impact, we already seen the data leakage. When ransomware comes in, your computer will be compromised. All your personal data will be damaged. So I would not bother because I use laptop. I just install Microsoft Word. Any document which I create, I have a copy in my OneDrive. So I don't have any personal document in it. Even if I have some movies or audio files in the computer, when this computer is infected with the ransomware, I don't mind. I just restore, I just refresh. There is also a simple option. Just before making it, we need to make sure that the data, I mean, the infection goes off from the computer. So I just get it to the Internet Explorer. There is an obviously, for example, when this one is encrypted, when you right click on a folder, any folder, you'll have the option to restore to previous stage, because usually the virtual shadow service will be enabled on all the computers. So if it's enabled, it will give you a different option, one or two options. That means the system restore stage before encryption, or how it would be. So I can restore to the earlier stage. We can use multiple recovery options, free crypto, I mean decryption tools. There are AVG, not only AVG, the McAfee, Kumado. These organizations will provide the decryption softwares for freely, but not for the existing software, existing ransomware. The ransomware which were from 2 years or 3 years back, or if there is any known infection, that can be reversed. So you get free online tools to decrypt the data, but the guarantee of recovering data is minimal. So what are the solutions available for a malware? Malware, we have anti-malware, antivirus solution. We already seen the process monitor, detection and correction solutions, etc. Host intrusion detection system, because on the host wise, most of the time we have intrusion prevention system. If we find anything suspicious on the traffic, obviously that should be prevented, not only for the detection, but some organization might be have a configuration differently. They just need tapping for detection, but I prefer to go with intrusion prevention than IDS. What is an endpoint device that think no explanation needed? Your smartphone, your laptop, or any other device, your iPad. What if it get lost? Simple. Once the data device is lost, the possibility of getting the data leak or the data loss or sensitive information will be goes to the wrong hands. Just to make sure that we'll be having a strong encryption in place. So even if laptop is stolen, without the password, we cannot decrypt the drive and get into the computer and see the sensitive data. Obviously, what person will do? They will just format the entire drive. So complete data will be wiped off. They can only use the computer. As per our organization perspective, we can buy hundreds of computers. That's no matter for us. But when single piece of information which should not be in the wrong hands, it would be equivalent to thousands of computers lost, like a similar malware infection. So lost is lost, and always companies will have insurance for the devices. So when it lost, it obviously it will be claimed. The data is more important. Same like your smartphones. Smartphones, the mobile device management software will make sure that the Outlook data or Word data will not be used. They might also ask you the PIN number or use your fingerprint to unlock the application, etc. So even if you don't have the PIN lock or password lock, the confidential data will not be used to the wrong hands. If the Outlook is not accessible, he will simply uninstall the app. The data will be lost. What happens once the data is lost? It lost. Impact loss of confidential data such as trade secrets, passwords, etc. Solution: remote wipe. Remote wipe is also one more important option. Most of the mobile management devices available. When the device is lost and it was reported on the right time, we can initiate the remote wipe from our organization. So we can entirely clean the data. We can remove all the sensitive information from a single click. So what is the data leakage over cloud? The data leakage happens on all the segments of IT infrastructure, and the cloud is no exception. We say that Google Cloud, Amazon Web Services, Azure, what they call they are secure because they know that they are patching the environment operating system regularly. They have highly sophisticated network infrastructure. I mean, virtually in a cloud environment, we'll be creating virtual networks. But for entry point into the cloud region, we'll be having a physical firewall, physical IDS, IPS. They might be having a highly sophisticated device where it can protect your cloud environment. So this is the part what cloud partner can offer you. But configuring the data inside your cloud environment and how the data is retrieved and who are the people you give access, that has to be done by the customer. That is us actually. So when we do something, I mean, when we misconfigure, when we do not configure it properly, so the cloud services will be obviously misused and the data leakage is also high. So what are the symptoms? Unauthorized external access. So the person who is not intended will also have access to the data. The impact is same as usual. Whenever a data is not within the hands, within the security, it obviously the confidential is gone, the business is gone, and also the compliance wise will be hit. Information rights management always comes into play when the data is in transit, on rest, or at work. So data, anyway, the data moves between a network and a network, or computer and a computer. The transfer of data is secured and encrypted. So nowadays, even inside the intranet, it uses SSL or TLS encryption. SSL is no longer available. The encryption is there. For accessing any file or any particular object, we need to get the access. The rights to the particular object needs to be assigned to the particular user account. So, or else sometimes we can even call it as a authentication required to access a particular object. Unauthorized browsing. Unauthorized browsing is nothing but, as we said, whenever a piece of malware or piece of script which got into your computer, which initiates a unauthorized communication towards command and control center, or it kind of tries to communicate to the developer or the hacker, we call. These kind of communication is called unauthorized browsing or unauthorized communication in simple. So what this happens is, when endpoint is compromised or when a server is compromised, it gets connected to the CNC. It receives additional information and instructions. So once it get additional information and instruction, it can be, the compromised computer can be a bot, or it can be converted as a zombie, or it can be used for carrying out distributed denial of service on other computers. So there are multiple DOS attacks. There is reflective, there is amplification of DOS attack. Even in subcategories, we have multiple. The spanning tree attack can be used for DDoS attack. So this is a slide which gives you what is the same symptoms, impact, solution, and what is the characteristics of unauthorized browsing. The characteristics is simple. It's just need to communicate to the control center, receive the command, and perform the commands received. What are the symptoms? There will be a sudden surge in the processing. I mean, when new process is running in the background, there will be increase in the system resource. Some malicious processes will be running in the computer background. I mean, you can check in the system tray to make sure that some are any of the untrusted application running. Also, one more example is a ransomware. Any unintended or unauthorized encryption running happening on your computer. These are some of the common symptoms of unauthorized browsing. What is the impact? Same impact. Confidentiality will go. Integrity, data will not be same as usual. Data will not be available. The confidentiality, integrity, and the availability, all the three attributes will get hit. Okay, as it's said to you previously, these attacks, as like the stuckneck is also called as a advanced persistent threat. And these type of malwares cannot be identified by the regular antivirus solution. They need much more complex, much more sophisticated AV solution, which includes artificial intelligence and advanced machine learning, because the ATPs are very slow and they were very stealth, and any action they were taken will not be easily identifiable, because they will not carry out the malicious things which a regular malware does. It will not encrypt your file, it will not transfer your unsensitive data, it will not slow down your system process, it will not let you know that it actually exists. That is the characteristics of it. What solution we can do it? We can do a enterprise proxy. So any communication goes to the internet will obviously pass through the proxy server. The proxy server will be on the layer 7. Layer 7 applications can see, layer 7 proxy can see what actually we see in the browser. The anti-malware, anti-phishing solution, browser protection solution, host intrusion detection, system hardening, configuration monitoring, etc. This can be implemented for unauthorized browsing. This is a slide which tells the damage, a cost of a cyber incident. The survey by Ponemon Institute, which was around 2000, which took the survey by 2017. The pie chart lets you know what is the actual impact and what are the subcategories it caused for a single cyber incident. 4% were lawsuits, fines, and regulatory action on the company. 30% went on loss. That is for the IT and end user protection loss for almost 30%. And when the system got hit and when there was an IT incident, almost 25% of the systems were in downtime. In downtime, the production is obviously zero. That almost cost 12 lakhs, 12 lakhs $52,650. That's 15 lakhs, 200 lakhs. This is for an incident. And also the reputation damage is 8%, because when we know that there were a leakage in the security, or when a site is not secure, obviously the customer will not turn back to the company. That will be a revenue loss, the reputation loss, the damage, theft. This is a, I mean, for every incident, what a company pays for. So what we can do for this is we can do for endpoint monitoring and managing. So what exactly does this? We do imaging. I mean, most of the time we do virtual images of computer. This will be accessed by a thin client. I mean, all the virtual images will be running on a server, and we will be having a instance accessed through a thin client. So we have a minimum configuration, minimum operating system files is necessary, and only a minimum required application will be installed. And also those will be controlled. I mean, for example, a REST workspace manager. Even we have multiple. I mean, EXI host or VMware machines, Citrix, any kind. But also, for example, REST workspace explorer manager that gives complete access, complete control to secure the virtual image. We can provide necessary access to the actual user. Even the complete virtual machine can be controlled, every single part, every single file, every single file's attribute can be controlled and monitored. So what we can do, the batch operation systems and applications, having a proper inventory of your hardware and software assets, also to manage the configuration on the go. So anytime when you make a configuration, it should be known and then should be documented. Managing the reimaging, deployment, decommissioning. Okay, it is also important that not only the creation, also the destruction of the asset is very much important. So disposable IT assets are to be taken care. That's an important step in it. And blocking or taking action of any known compromises. If it's a known indication of compromise, we need to proactively create alerts, create rules, create controls just to block it. Also, the memory imaging, remote memory imaging for digital forensic, because we will not be letting direct memory access to any of the software, system softwares. So even the end user will not be given the access to provide a memory dump anytime. So the memory will not be accessed, and it can be decrypted or manipulated post in the regular forensic method. Setting up honeypots, or setting up DMZ network, or setting up a compromised network, or just outside the firewall or just after the firewall with the limited unsensitive data, just for trapping. The deception in the early stage will also mitigate the threats. For what we can do for the malwares, we'll be having a security baseline. Security baseline analyzer is available with Microsoft. You can run security baseline. Just a minute, I'll show it to you. So what you can do is, so the Microsoft Baseline Analyzer, it's a free tool available with Microsoft, same like Microsoft sysinternals. These are free tools from Microsoft. Making use of it will obviously help securing the environment. The Microsoft Baseline Analyzer tool will run a quick scan on your computer, and it will identify what are the basic patches installed, what are the security definitions. If it's a Microsoft Windows Defender is installed, whether it was up to date or all the components are active. It will give you a baseline of your system where your security actually stands on. So with it, we can go beyond and check what are the things we need to concentrate on. So also the minimum and accepted drift from established standard. There is also user education, and also there will be periodically drill. I mean, what happens when we will be having a mock drill, same like a real incident. We'll simulate the threat infection or security incident awareness, and we try to execute what are the things we do to remediate, and where exactly the control fails. It is not only during the actual incident, but even before that we'll be start practicing on it. So the mock drill will be that should be a part of the environment at least once in 3 months or once in 6 months. It should be happening. So unauthorized usage and unauthorized configurations should not be done. The proper asset discovery and asset maintenance register, it's a essential task in securing your environment. So this is a scenario one we need to discuss on considering modern endpoints. what are the modern endpoints like laptops, your smartphones, your tablets? What actually makes it more convenient in carrying out on everyday activity, and how we can manage it outside your corporate network? So, what are the ways? We already have discussed on it. I need someone from your to answer or use the question panel. This area, this slide, we need to discuss on. Considering ease browsing, personal data processing on enterprise endpoints. So obviously, someone should have question on it. Why was my personal data should be processed by the enterprise? Why don't we first use our personal data in the corporate environment? Because any data which is inside the network is monitored, and if required, people can access it. If it's really for an investigation purpose, because some not any person and every person can have access to your personal data, but if it's in a need, if it's in a requirement, and if it's for some kind of any investigation on the device, obviously when you have a personal data on it, it might be viewed by the corporate officials. So it's always advisable not to use personal data on your corporate device, and also not to use your personal computers or personal smartphones for your official purpose. There is a rule. I mean, when I work with my director, he always carries two different mobile phones. One is for the personal use, and the other one is for the official use. He will not answer the official calls on his personal number. He will not make personal calls from his official number. So likewise, he actually uses two different devices for it. But in our country, obviously, most people will mix it up. But just to make sure that the purpose of the device has to be meant. If it's for personal, it has to be done for the personal. So when you have something, I mean, it is obviously when you install some official apps, you need to accept the terms and conditions, and also you should be installing some mobile device managements on your personal computer. Then it will mostly brick almost controlling your device. That obviously it's not necessary for you. As freedom comes with a lot of responsibilities, all this freedom of usage enterprise and brings a lot of risk. Obviously, when you're free to use your device, you should be also getting additional responsibility on your regular task. When you're using your personal laptop, when you're using a personal smartphone, additional responsibility of being protecting your data as well as your corporate data is an essential. And also additional risk. The risk in the sense anything. It can be your personal data can be monitored. Your personal phone call logs can be backed up by your enterprise. When your device is controlled, obviously we can read your SMS, we can see your WhatsApp interactions, and we can also find what are the information you're transferring over your phones. It obviously not necessary for you, so please stay away from using your personal devices for your corporate official use. So mostly the people will not say that it's what are the things happening in the background. It's obviously possible for us to track even the exact location, GPS location, your recent SMS, your recent call log, and how long the call went on. If required, the call can be recorded, your email transactions. So we don't want our company to spy on us, because the company will not directly say that it will be happening. There is a possibility that can be done. So the scenario number two, what we can discuss, bring your own device. So what is it? So corporate adapted these days, they are okay to get the personal device for work. So just to reduce the infrastructure cost and infrastructure time, and if you're comfortable working on your computer, that's okay for them. They're okay. So the enterprise cost level they can maintain, and also it is not so easy for having the personal and corporate, I mean, employment data in the same track, I mean, same computer. It will not be so confidentially enough. When it's a personal computer, your friend, your family, or anyone else can access, or even if it's your single user on that computer, you will not have the enough restriction or enough enforcement or enough access policy assigned to you. Obviously, what you think, you would be the owner of the computer, you can do whatever you want. But the fact is, you also have the official data on it. When a data leakage is done, you might get sued by your company, or when there is any damage, or obviously you might be connected to the corporate environment over a VPN. When you're connected to a VPN from your personal computer, it means that you can send and receive data over the communication, I mean, over the network. So if there is a possibility of getting a computer infected, there is always a possibility of transferring infection to your internal network. When the internal network is infected, it's easy. It's within minutes it is identifiable what is the source, from where is it, where the infection happened. So again, you will be caught. And the same thing, freedom comes with a lot of responsibilities, and a lot of responsibilities also comes along with a lot of risk. Using your local computer, I mean your personal computer for enterprise. This demo, it has a spy tech. So you can make use of the spy tech trial version. That is actually, you can try installing it on your computer. No, my computer is not virus oriented because mine is already hardened. I cannot install. I logged in as a standard user. I cannot install softwares or run any application with elevated privilege here. So that's why I regularly connect to my lab, which is located remotely. Unfortunately, today I'm not able to connect to it. I'm just getting some network error. I need to fix it because I thought I could have show you a demo on it. It was functioning fine, but today it's giving some error. So this is also a reason choosing a cloud provider we need to think of. The SpyTech Spy Agent, it's just a tool which can be installed on your computer. You can try using the keyloggers. Keyloggers actually what it is, a application which captures each and every keystrokes, your mouse movements, everything in the keylogger section. And with this, you can copy, you can capture the screen, you can forward the email conversation, you can capture the system logs, you can access the computer remotely. This is just a trialware, so this is not for a promotion purpose. You can test it and install it and download it and test it. So creating a restore points, it's important. Let me show you. Let me open up the Explorer. I'm not able to open up. At least I should be able to get a system restore point. Okay, it's not letting me in. Creating a system restore point, what it actually does is it will have a copy of your existing registry. Also, please make a research on what is system registry, what its role actually does is system registry, startup location, startup system startup. Try using ms config. Try reading about what is ms config. Services.msc, which takes you to the services console where you can see what are the services running. System regit, you can use command prompt. Regit will take you to the. You can simply type msconfig in the start run instead of command. You can use it in command prompt, else start run regit. Likewise, you can go for msconfig services.msc. Those will give you the location. But please make sure that you'll Google up why the system registry is so important. System registry is like a inventory of your computer. It will have each and every configuration change, your complete information of your existing system. So it will have a backup of it. And also the virtual shadow services. Okay, virtual shadow services, it's a built-in feature which comes along with Windows from Windows Vista. It is Windows backup option. Whenever you perform any action or whenever a file is copied, there is also a backup service which is for recovery. When the file gets corrupted, we can restore it from virtual shadow service. What else I can give it to you? As like NIST, SANS is also a general body which prescribes, which gives controls, and which give education, which trains people. This is one of the important organization which train defense. I mean, Department of Homeland Security, and it takes care of the CERT Computer Emergency Response Team, who trains people from NSA. So this is completely dedicated for cybersecurity and cyber forensics and anything related to cyber. This is a great model, and they proposed a security maturity model. There are 5 levels of it. What are the ways? What are the levels a company or organization, and in which level the organization security posture or the security infrastructure setting is in? From the level 1, you see that it's a random or disorganized, reactive or tactical. Random or disorganized, it's they are not ready. They will not be even ready for the cyber incident. They completely disorganized. They will not have a complete system inventory. They won't have the proper patching in place. Reactive or tactical, they will have some kind of AV or minimum kind of minimal level of securities will be in place. Preventive, they are good. They will be in between the no security to in high security posture. Organized and detect Organized and directed are almost close enough, but only thing is the top management will not be involved directly into the infrastructure security or the enterprise security level. Level 5 will have the complete and continuous defense in depth. I mean, level by level depth. So I'm starting about PowerPoint. Let me Defense in depth is nothing but it actually securing the environment in multiple layers. Securing layer, I don't need the title. For example, what we can call it as it's a corporate enterprise, and inside it we have, so the perimeter level will be taking care about the perimeter. I mean, okay, I'm just not wasting time. I'm just segregating the division. For example, let it be the demo here. I made a fence. The yellow is like a corporate perimeter firewall. Inside it, I'll be having a region which is in orange. That's also a secure network where I am not letting anything go beyond. And furthermore, the four circles, I mean, four triangles in green, which can be represented as computers. I have six different computers in group A. I say have six different computers in group B. Both computers are not correlated. I mean, they will be again isolated into a blue box. Blue box is a separate segment. Again, I can implement separate firewall or separate virtual LAN or separate access control list. So anything and everything which comes in to the corporate network and inside to it will be monitored on multiple layers. So every layer I'll be having multiple devices. I'll be having an AV solution. I'll be having IDS, IPS, firewalls, routers, switches, whatever, the load balancers, proxies, the reverse proxies, the DNS server, lookup restriction. So the control list, I'll be having multiple in place and everything. So layer by layer, the initial top layer is taken by the firewall. The second layer is again taken by the second level firewall. And the segment is taken by a separate VLAN, and the six computers in this VLAN cannot communicate to the four computers, but they can communicate outside. So as per the requirement of the environment, we can configure the rules and the security. So this is how the layered approach work. So we target every single computer and every single endpoint and every single network or subnet will be treated equally important and providing the security to fullest on every level. That is the highest level, the proactive, comprehensive, continuous, and measurable. It will be a repeated process where even the top management directors will directly involve into the security of the environment, because it's still a read and understand method. A randomized disk organized. I'll just read out to you. The level one organization is disaster waiting to happen. Anytime a disaster can happen, they might not be aware that the disaster will happen. They will not be ready on it, so the endpoint is always in a danger zone. The level two security is organization pay. I mean, they just pay for the word security. That's it. They won't have the particular intention or particular sufficiency in infrastructure, network, or endpoint solution. They just have a word because they, for the namesake, they allot security budget and they work as a security. That's it. Simple. They are somewhat above. The level three, they will be having some bit knowledge. They can possess some additional knowledge or additional compliance based products. They can be having a AV solution or a network firewall or solution. That's in the medium category. I mean, the third one is between the no security to the high level security. And level four, it's almost they are more organized and they know what is the incident is and how to mitigate an incident. And they also have some additional budget to work on it. So the fifth one, the not only the security team, not only the directors, everyone and anyone who's employed will be trained, and they treat security as a responsibility of each and everyone. So even a least level employee will be given the, I mean, given the proper training, and they will be taught what is their responsibility, what needs to be done, and what not to be done. The proper training, and this training also would be happening periodically, twice a year to be precise. I mean, every 6 months or every 1 year, compliance, then the regulatory laws and everything is keeps changing. So people needs to be adaptive and acknowledged. And why the twice in a year? The training session is mandatory for all the employees. Obviously, people will be moving and coming in. I mean, every appraisal cycle or before the appraisal cycle, people tend to leave the company or post it. So any new employees comes in, he must be a part of it. Or so just like that. Any employee who comes in and he might be at least trained once in the training. That is the main concept of it. So almost we completed this session. Thank you.